a Floriani National Educator. And before we get started, I'm just going to show you a picture of what the end project looks like. So as we start working through this, you in your heads at least will have a pretty good idea of where we're going to end up. I think if I don't show you that picture, it'll all look a little crazy. So first of all, I just want to say that this project was designed by Rita Gizzard, who is one of our guest quilters, and she does a lot of things for us and is going to be doing a lot more projects for us in the future. And this is her project, and I'm presenting it. And this is a picture of what it looks like. It's a pin cushion with trapunto on the top, and if you don't know what trapunto is, that's when you've got kind of a raised puffy area in the middle of your design with usually some micro stippling around the edge to mat down the rest of the quilt batting so that it gives a little more contrast, or a lot more contrast, to the center raised section by matting down the batting with those micro stitches. So you can see around the, okay, my Windows just wanted me to do something and I'm not going to do it. Okay, so you can see the circular pattern around the outside. That's our micro stippling, and the inside where the pins are stuck, that is our trapunto section. And this is a project that uses a mason jar as the bottom of the pin cushion that you can fill with things. So I'm going to end this now, hopefully, and I'm going to start up my decorative quilter. And I'm going to do that by double-clicking that. And when you start up my decorative quilter, you should get this My Floriani Today screen. And I want to point out something that's brand new that just got released today in the My Floriani Today screen, and that's right here over on the right-hand side. You can see the February 2014 project of the month, and this is a brand new thing for my decorative quilter. And guess what project it is? It's the project we have today. And this is how you're going to get your printed assembly instructions and software instructions. So, okay, we're going to keep the current color scheme. All right, so I guess it won't let me go on until I click that. I'm sorry about that, folks. All right, so to get the instructions for today's webinar and today's project, when you open my decorative quilter, just simply click here. And so I'm going to click on this picture so you can actually see what happens. So if you click on it, you're going to get this screen. And right here is Install the Current Month Project. And so we're going to click there. And then Windows is going to give you a little warning here about whether you want to run or save it. And you should click Run. And of course, when you do that, Windows is going to come up and make sure that you really want to do that. And you're going to click Yes. And then you may get another security warning screen telling you that this program might be harmful because it is an executable file. It's not showing on my system right now. It was this morning. But if it does, just select Other Options and then go ahead and tell it to run anyway. And so if you click here, OK, to install the current month project, boy, it's done already. It's actually installed and everything. It's very, very quickly. And if you want to know where it went, if you click here, Where are my free projects, it will come up and tell you where they are. But I'm going to show you where they are. And I'm going to close this tab. And I'm going to go to my Windows Explorer and show you where it put it. It put it in the C drive under Floriani. My mouse is not responding like I like. It's under Designs, and if you scroll down to MDQ Projects, it's right here, MDQ Project, and then just like the free designs that come with Total Control, they're going to all be organized by month and year. This is the first one, so it's the only one there. And then under February 2014, here are the instructions as a PDF file. And I'm going to double click on them so you can just see them real quick. And you can see here that you've got the opening page, the software instructions to follow along with later, the assembly instructions, and that's what you get. So you should have everything you need to complete the project at home. And so we're going to create a new design here. Now, I just want to tell you up front that I'm going to be presenting this seminar as if you are following along with me live, and you are absolutely not going to be doing that right now because you won't want to have your MDQ windows open along with the webinar windows. But the reason I'm presenting it as if you're following along with me is because I do expect you to, when you download the video later, to actually follow along with the video and do the software steps if you prefer to work in that way. Otherwise, you can use the printed instructions that we just went over how to download. So the very first thing we're going to do after opening my decorative quilter is we are going to make sure that our design area and all of our options are set to a standard, if you will, so that everything works the way it's written. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right-click on the ruler bar and just make sure that we're in inches mode here. I'm already in inches. I can go ahead and click it again, but if you happen to be in metric, just switch to inches. Then we're going to come up here to the Tools menu. We're going to click on the Tools menu, and then we're going to go to General Options, and we're going to click on the Grid icon right here because we just want to double-check that Snap to Grid right here is unchecked. We want to make sure that that is unchecked. And lastly, we're going to come down here to our digitizing icon, click that, and make sure that our input mode is in Simple Draw. Now, if you haven't changed any of these options, chances are that this is the way it's going to be set up, but just go ahead and double check it, and then click OK when you've got everything set correctly. So we're going to begin to draw the design here, and the first step that we're going to do is we're going to create a piece of artwork, and we're going to create a triangle. So we do that by clicking on the artwork tool here and the little drop-down box, which is the little arrow to the right, and we're going to click the triangle tool. And when we do that, you can see my cursor here is a little plus sign showing where the center of the cursor is, but there's a little triangle down at the edge to remind us that what we're drawing is a triangle. Come somewhere down here in the lower right-hand portion of the screen, click the mouse, holding the mouse down, and drag up and to the left to create a triangle that looks something like that. It doesn't have to look exactly like that because we're going to set right now the triangle to exactly the correct size that we need. So we're going to select the triangle by clicking on our select icon here, which is the top arrow on the left toolbar. And when we do that, it should automatically get selected. If it doesn't automatically get selected, then you will have to just click somewhere on here. And I apologize for that little noise if you can hear it in the background. It's my fax machine that someone's trying to send me something. And I don't have a way to hang it up, so it's just going to be an annoyance. So anyway, what we're going to do now is we are going to select the triangle, and we are going to size it to the exact size we want. And when we selected it, over here our properties box automatically opened up, and this icon right here is the transform icon. And if you have your software set up to show words here instead of icons, you will see the word transform. So we're going to click on that, and it shows us the width and the height here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the width and the height independently. So I'm going to uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio, and that allows me to independently set the width and the height. We're going to change the width to 0.6 inches. We're going to change the height to 1.35, so 1.35 inches, and then we're going to click Apply. And that will change the height and width of the triangle to the exact size that we need it to be. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to change this triangle from a hard-sided triangle into more of a flower petal shape or a teardrop shape. And we're going to do that by clicking on our Shape tool, which is the second arrow down on the left-hand toolbar. So we're going to click on Shape. And when we click Shape, you will see that it changes from the look that we had into these purple lines, and you get these little square boxes at the end of the lines. And those boxes are actually called nodes. That's the technical name for them. And you can also see that as I bring my cursor towards the node, as I get close to it, the little dot appears. And then see, again, if I move away, the dot goes away. That little dot says I'm in position to select the node. So once I get the dot and I'm over the box, I'm going to click on the node. And when it's selected, you can see that it changes its appearance to tell me that it's selected. I'm now going to right-click on it, and I'm going to change the mode of the node from line, which is what it is, into smooth. And when I do that, I get a curve over here. I'm going to repeat the exact same procedure for the second node at the top. And I'm going to click smooth. And now we have a teardrop shape. And I'm just going to leave it like that because that's the shape that we want. We're going to come back over here to our select icon. I'm going to click that. Once again, it should automatically be selected. And now I need to make a copy of this and paste another copy of it into the design. I have several different ways in the software that I can do that. I can either come up here to the Edit menu and click Copy, and then click Paste. It's not lit up right now because there's nothing copied. Or I can use my Copy and Paste icon. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my Copy and Paste icons. And if you can see on the screen, next to Copy, it says Control-C. I'll hover over it again. And over Paste, it says Control-V. And those are the standard Windows shortcut keys for copy and paste. And that's the third way that you can do it. But I'm going to go ahead and use the buttons. I'm going to click Copy. You can see now my Paste icon lit up because there's something I can paste. And I'm going to click Paste. You can't see it in the view here because they're right on top of each other. But if you look over here in our sequence view, you can see that we now have two pieces of artwork instead of one, and my second artwork is already selected for me. We're going to rotate this now 45 degrees, and I'm going to do that by clicking my Rotate Right icon one time. Okay, so that's going to give me one 45-degree rotation. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to line up the points of the petals. So I'm going to hover over until my cursor changes into a hand icon, telling me that I can move this. So I'm going to click it and drag, and I'm going to line up the 2 points down there. And that gives us 1/4 of our petal. And now I'm going to do the same thing again to get the second quarter of the petal, but this time I'm going to select everything. And so I can make a copy at the same time of both of the petals. Now I've got two different ways I can do this. I can either drag all the way across like this to select them all. The other thing I can do is in my Edit window, I can click Select All, and it does exactly the same thing. And you'll also notice in the Edit window there's a Control-A there, and that is the same as the Windows shortcut for Select All. So again, 3 different ways to do it. I can either use my cursor and select tool and draw a box around everything. I can select all from here, or I can do the Windows Control-A. When I have it selected, I'm again going to copy, click the Copy button, and the Paste button to get another copy. And it didn't actually paste it. There it goes. And now you can see over here in my sequence view that I have 4 pieces of artwork. I'm going to rotate this one now. Instead of 45 degrees, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm going to do that by clicking on the Rotate Right icon twice. So I'm going to click once and twice to rotate it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to click on the center again as soon as I get the hand icon. As soon as I get the hand icon, come on, icon. Okay, that'll let me, nope, that's not what I want to drag, excuse me. Let me put it back. There we go. And I'm going to center them up. And so now I've got them all in the center like that. Now I'm going to show you a shortcut. If you don't know about it, it's a great little shortcut because I want to get everything kind of back in the middle of the screen so it's easier to work with. And one way I like to use a shortcut to do that is to actually double-click on my zoom tool, which is my magnifying glass. So I'm going to double-click on my zoom tool, and there it is all nice and back in the center. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select everything that's here, so all 4 petals, and I'm going to do that by, excuse me, I'm going to put those back over on the side. I keep apologizing. But I'm going to do an edit select all, so that selects everything, and I've lost my toolbar. Oh, it's way over here. It's not in the normal place, and I apologize for that. So I'm going to select copy and then paste, and I'm now going to rotate it. And my rotate icon isn't showing up. I'm going to try and put this toolbar back where it's supposed to go. And it's not going to let me. I apologize, folks. This presentation software sometimes messes with Windows. Yes?
You see where there you go. Sorry,
okay.
You got it.
And it's actually below where it normally is. So let me move it up to where it normally is. Okay, everything looks normal again. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees, 90 degrees, actually 207 degrees, and I'm going to do that by clicking the rotate right icon 4 times. So here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's flipped. And I'm going to now center them up again. And when you're centering these, we're not actually going to use this shape. We're actually going to draw an outline around it. So getting them absolutely perfectly in the center isn't totally necessary, so don't stress over that. I'm going to double-click my zoom tool again here and get everything all kind of centered up. I'm now going to select everything, and I'm going to do that with my edit, select all. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to right-click on the design, and when I do that, I get this pop-up menu, and you see here I've got Create Outline, because that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to click on Create Outline. You're going to get this dialog box that comes up, and the first thing it wants to know is what's the distance of the outline that I'm going to create. And I'm going to actually change that to 0 because I want the outline to be right around the outside of my design, and I'm going to click OK. And when I do that, a 9th artwork shows up down here, and it is selected. And while it's still selected, I am actually going to change the color of that artwork to red, and I'm going to do that by right-clicking on color number 2 here. I call it red because it looks red, but the real color is deep pink, but we're just going to keep calling it red. And now that I've got that changed into red, you can see it separates out the outline here from the petals in my sequence view. Like I said, we don't need the petals, so what I am going to do is I am going to get rid of them. I'm going to select them, and I'm going to select my cut icon here and just click it in order to delete them. Okay? And while my outline is still selected, I'm going to make yet another copy of it, and yet again I'm going to click Copy and Paste to get another copy of it. Now I have 2 outlines here, and I am going to change the color of the second one into green, and it's selected, so I'm going to do that by right-clicking on color number 3 to change it to green. And those are our first 2 steps for creating the basic outlines that we're going to use for the Trapunto effect. What I'm going to do now is I am going to create an ellipse or a circle around the outside so we can add our micro stippling. So I'm going to come up here to my artwork tool, and I'm going to select the ellipse. And like the triangle, you can see that my cursor right now has a little circle there to tell me that I am creating a circle. And if you don't know about this cool little shortcut, if you hold down the Control key, and unfortunately you cannot see my keyboard, but if you hold down the Control key and then click and drag, that will create a perfect circle in this mode. If you do that in the rectangle mode, it will create a perfect square. If you do it in the triangle mode, it will create a 45-degree triangle. But it's important, the sequence that you do this in, you need to hold down the Control key first, and then you're going to click and drag, and I'm just going to make a circle approximately around the outside there, because we're going to set the exact size that we need in a second. And while holding down the Control key, let off the mouse, and then let up the Control key. So once again, the sequence of doing that is hold down Control, click and drag your circle, let up on the mouse, and then let up on the Control key. If you let up on the Control key first, it's going to lose that symmetrical circle effect. I'm going to click on the Select tool to select my circle, and I'm going to come over here once again to my Properties box. This time, it's a circle that I want to be perfectly symmetrical, and I want to maintain that. So I'm going to click Maintain Aspect Ratio, and I want my circle to be 3.2 inches across. And I got pretty close there. I got to 3.25, but I'm just going to click and delete the 5 there to get to 3.2. You notice when I do that, my bottom one automatically changes to match it. That's because I have Maintain Aspect Ratio checked. And I'm going to click Apply to change the size of the circle. And if you saw that, it changed down just a little bit. What I need to do now is get everything all nice and centered. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my Edit, and I'm going to select All. So I've got everything selected. And then I want to center everything together. So to do that, I'm going to do 2 steps. I'm first going to click my horizontal center align, followed by my vertical center align. And when I do that, everything is all nice and aligned in the center. So now we're going to go on to create our micro stippling or our micro stitching around the outside. We're going to click on this green icon here in our sequence view, the green color. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to move that to the front of the design. And I'm going to do that by clicking on my Move to Front icon here from the toolbar menu. So I'm going to click Move to Front. Okay. So what that does is it brings it all the way up to the top here. And I'm just going to double check that I did that correctly, and it looks like I did. Okay, so now I'm actually going to select the first 2 items. So I'm going to do that by first clicking on my red or pink color here, and then I'm going to again hold down the Control key, and I'm going to click on the second item. And when I do that, something happened there. I'm going to back up. And undo is your friend, folks, because I just want to reiterate that undo is your friend. And I don't know what happened there, but I'm once again going to click here and hold down the Control key and click on the second one. And that selects my top 2 items. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually combine those 2 items. So before I do that, I'm just going to step back. I'm going to click outside here to make sure nothing is selected, because I want you to see right here, this is our combine icon. And right now, combine is not lit up. And the reason it's not lit up is because there isn't anything to combine. If I select the first item in my list, you can see that it's still not lit up. But if I Control-click the second icon in the list, now that icon lit up because things are selected. This looks like it's got my second thing selected, and I'm not sure if it does or not, folks. And again, I think this may be an artifact of the presentation software. So I'm going to click away from it again, and I'm going to try one more time just to make sure that I've got them selected the way I want them. Okay, and that looks a little better to me. I'm going to now click the combine icon to make sure that they're both combined. And when I do that, you can see that they become one object and they're the same color. What you can't see here is what I've actually done is this object is now defined by the outside circle and the inside of it. And so that means that anything in here, in this area in the center, isn't going to get filled when we fill it. Okay, and that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to come up here to my shape echo, and I'm going to click the shape echo icon, and I'm going to select shape number 100, which is the circular shape, and I'm going to click OK. And you can see that it filled the outside with the shape, but it didn't come into the center. That's because of the way we combined it. I'm going to change the properties of this. I want to change my stitch length from 4 down to 2 millimeters, and I'm also going to change my density to 2 millimeters to get more spirals in my circle, and I'm going to click Apply. And when I do that, you can see now I've got some real micro stippling around the edge, and that is going to create our micro stippling effect. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to lock this shape because I don't want it to move and I don't want any stray mouse clicks to affect it. And I'm going to do that by coming over here to my sequence view and click on the lock icon. And I'm getting all kinds of artifacts on my screen, but it looks like it's doing the right thing. So I've locked that first one, and you can see now that this icon is locked. DJ, can you see that okay? Does it look good to you?
Yeah, we can see it. You do see some of that white artifact, but it's you can see that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody can see that that icon looks locked now. Okay, so that's going to, again, prevent any unwanted changes. I'm now going to click on my second shape here, the green shape, and we're actually going to need now 4 copies of this. So we already have one, so I'm actually going to copy it. So I'm going to click on my copy, and I'm going to paste it 3 more times. So I'm going to click 1, 2, 3 more times. And you should see over here, now you can see 4 artworks that are identical. You can't see them on the screen because they're all right on top of each other, but if you look over here in the sequence view, you can see that there are actually 4. The 4th one is selected, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to change that one from artwork into a run stitch. And I'm going to do that by coming up here to my run stitch icon and clicking Convert to Run. So just that simple, it should convert it into a run stitch. And you can see right now it's converted to a run stitch. We want that to be a 3 millimeter stitch length, which is the default. So if it doesn't say 3 millimeters here in the properties box, you want to change that to 3 millimeters. Okay? We're going to move this stitch to the back now. So we're going to do that by clicking Move to Back. And that's actually going to become the very, very first thing that gets sewed out. And we're going to change the color of it to blue. So we're going to come over here to color number 1, and we're going to right-click on color number 1 to change it to blue. That's actually going to become a stitch that you'll see later that's actually going to tack our batting down to it's going to show us on our stabilizer where we want to place everything, and it's also going to tack our batting down. And we are going to now copy and paste that one. So we're going to click Copy, and we're going to click Paste. So now you can see I've got 2 versions of that run stitch there. Our second one that we just pasted is still selected, and we are going to right-click on the orange color to change its color to orange. So now we've got it separated out here in the orange color. I'm going to come up to my properties box, and on this one I'm going to change the stitch length to 2.5, and I'm going to change the type of run stitch from a standard to a 2-ply, and I'm going to click Apply. And so that changes it from 2.5 stitch length and also to a 2-ply. This is going to be the stitch that's going to stitch down our extra batting that's going to create the trapunto effect. We're actually going to take this out of the hoop, and we're going to, or not out of the hoop, but out of the machine, and we're going to trim around it with an applique or very sharp scissors. So the reason we put 2 lines of stitching there is we just want to make sure that that gets held down very well. And just an aside here, the reason we're doing all these color changes is not only so we can more easily see them over here in the sequence view, but also because those color changes are going to cause our normal single needle machines to stop and ask us to change the color. Now, we're probably not actually going to change the color, but we need the machine to stop so we can physically do the next step in the hoop. And you'll see that when we get to the assembly instructions. Okay, I'm going to now click on the second green artwork shape, which is right down there. And I've got these artifacts going on, so I'm going to try and move the cursor around so you can see it. There we go. So that guy is now selected. And I am going to click on the transform icon here. And I need this to be a smaller piece because we are going to now add some texture to the middle of this. And I'm going to transform it to 65% of its original size. So rather than tell it an actual width and the height, I'm going to come over here to my percentage, and I'm going to change the top one to 65% and click Apply. And that changes it to 65%. So you can see now it's smaller. Now I want to rotate this so that this point right here is aligned in the center of the design so that the top of this hump comes right over here to this point. In order to do that, I'm going to create what we call a guideline. And if you've never used a guideline before, they're very useful for lining things up and doing things like we're about to do right now. The way you create a guideline is you actually come over to either the top ruler or the side ruler, either one of the two, click in the ruler for the guideline you want to create, and drag out into the design. And you can see here I've got that guideline dragging into the design. And I'm going to use the little handle boxes and the X there in the center of this design to line the guideline up in the center. Okay, and there it is. It's pretty close to the center. So it's right there in the center. And now I'm going to rotate it by grabbing my rotate icon right up here in the left hand, or excuse me, right hand side, click it and drag, and as I drag down it turns, and I'm just going to line up those points with the point of the guideline. And by the way, guidelines are just there on the screen. They don't stitch and they don't do anything but show you where to line things up on the screen. And so now our second shape is rotated into the right position. And now we're going to have a third shape that we're going to make even smaller, and that's going to be my third piece of artwork here. I'm going to click on my transform tool, and this one we're going to make 42% of the original size. So I'm going to come on here and type in 42, and I'm going to click Apply, Apply, and that one goes into the center. And that one we don't want to rotate or do anything with because it's right in the right place. Then the last step we're going to do is we're going to select all three of these shapes, and shape number 1 is out here, shape number 2 is here, shape number 3 is here. They're all here in green, so I'm just going to shortcut select them all by clicking on the green color there. And I'm going to convert those all to run stitches all at the same time by clicking on my Run Stitch tool, and that converts them all to run. And then I'm going to come over to my, it didn't do it for some reason. Let me just click one more time. Okay, it's not doing it, is it? I apologize, folks. This presentation software is really playing havoc with it. Yes, okay. They're all run stitches, and I'm going to click on them again. And here's my properties box for all those run stitches. And this time, I'm going to change my stitch length to 2 millimeters on those guys. And I'm going to change it from a standard run into a 2-ply run again. And click Apply. And so that changes my stitch length and the type of run into 2-ply. And again, we're doing 2-ply in this case because we want that thread to have a little bit bolder look on the top of our pin cushion. And by running over the design twice, which is what a 2-ply does, it's going to give us a much bolder look than a single-ply would. And the last step we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to unlock our micro stippling by clicking on color number 2's lock icon. And we're basically done creating the pin cushion. And you can see now that what we have on the screen, let me turn it into 3D mode so you can see the stitches a little better. You can see that what's on the screen now really looks like, except for the colors, what was on our stitch out that you saw. And what we're going to do now is we're going to save that design. So I'm going to come up here to File, Save, and that's going to ask me to save it somewhere. And here's my design folder. You know where I'm going to put it. I'm going to scroll down to where my MDQ projects is stored, which is right here. And I'm going to double-click that. Double-click on February, go to February 2014, and I'm going to name it Trapunto Pin Cushion. And I'm going to first save it in the Floriani C2S format. And if you're not doing it now, you should definitely be getting in the habit of saving all of your designs in the C2S format first. And then consider this your master file. Now, no sewing machine out there is able to sew a C2S format, but we are going to, in the next step, save it in our machine format. But should you ever need to come back in and edit this, you would want to go back to your C2S or your master file to do your edits and then resave it in your machine format. The reason is that the C2S format retains the most information about all the shapes that we've created and all the other things. If we had put notes over here into the notes, it would retain those notes, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save to save it as the C2S file. And then to save it in my machine format, I would come over here and click File again. This time I'm going to click Save As. And instead of leaving the type as the C2S, I would click the down arrow here and select my machine type. And you can see all the machines that are in here. And when I stitched this out for the pictures, I did it with my Brother Baby Lock Multi-Needle, PES version 9. So that's what I'm going to select. And I'm going to save it. And if you were to go look at that directory now, you would have both of those files saved. And so that ends the section on how to do the software part of this project. We're going to move on right now and show you how the project is actually assembled. Since I've saved the files, I can go ahead and close my decorative quilter, and it shouldn't give me any error messages. It doesn't. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint show here, and we're going to bring up the Trapunto Pin Cushion. So you've seen this screen before. I'm going to go to the next one. Again, this is what it looks like. One more time, this is actually a mason jar, and it's got stuff in the center, and this is how you would actually use the pin cushion. And I'm just going to go over real quickly the materials that you require. The first thing you're going to need is you're going to need some Floriani no-show mesh nylon stabilizer. And it doesn't matter what color you're going to use because it's all hidden. So whatever version of this you have, feel free to use it. I used beige because it showed up a little better in the pictures, but if you want to use the white or the black, feel free. Should you only have the fusible kind, you can use that as well. Just make sure that when you hoop it, you put the fusible side or the shiny side facing up. And that will keep any adhesive from flaking off and falling down into your bobbin case and making a mess that you have to clean up. But preferably you would use our no-show nylon mesh in the non-fusible form. And if you're going to do a lot of in the hoop projects, that's the base for almost everything we're going to do for our projects going forward. So it's a good stabilizer to have. We're going to use our Floriani quilted soft polyester batting, and we are going to be using 3 4-inch square pieces, and we're going to be using 4 2.5-inch round pieces. And the square pieces, I'm sure you know how to cut a 4-inch square. For the 2.5-inch round piece, my suggestion is find something that's about 2.5 inches round and trace around the outside of the batting with a flexion pen and a friction pen, and then go ahead and just cut it out. In my house, I had some drinking glasses that were that size. I also found out that the spray can of Magic Sizing happened to be the perfect 2.5-inch round size, so that's what I used. We're also going to need a 4-inch square piece of polar fleece, and polar fleece is that sweatshirt type material that you're familiar with. It's kind of fuzzy on the inside and nice and smooth on the outside, so that's going to be the actual fabric of our pin cushion. You're going to need a small hoop. You can use a bigger hoop, but the smallest hoop that you can use is always a good thing to do in embroidery. In this case, we're going to be using a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter hoop, or more commonly known as a 4-inch by 4-inch hoop. So almost all machines come with that size hoop, and that's the one I recommend for this. You're going to need some Floriani polyester embroidery thread, and you have a choice here. You can either pick a thread that matches your fleece color, whichever color you choose, or you can pick a contrasting color. And as you've seen in the pictures, I picked a contrasting color. I did that for 2 reasons. One, I thought it actually looked better for the contrast because I really wanted to see that design, but also I wanted to make sure that you could see the thread in the pictures. You're going to need a roll of our Floriani Embroidery Perfection tape. If you've never used that tape, it is just absolutely wonderful stuff. We use it for tacking all kinds of things down, for holding things out of the way so they don't get in the way of the needle, like the sleeves of garments, etc. It is wonderful because it has a great amount of adhesion, yet it is expertly designed so that it will not leave a residue of adhesive either on your garment or your hoop or your machine or anything you stick it to. And I really, really love embroidery perfection tape. And you'll also need a sharp pair of scissors. It should be a fairly pointy scissors or an applique scissors, one of the two, because that's what we're going to use to cut our batting with once it's tacked down. You're going to need some kind of glue that's compatible with both metal and fabric. And good old Elmer's white glue will work fine, or anything like that, but feel free to use whatever glue that you have that's compatible with metal and fabric. And lastly, you're going to need a wide mouth mason jar with a ring and a lid. And make sure you get a wide mouth mason jar, because if you don't, it's not going to work, at least with the dimensions that we've set up in this design. And you want to choose a jar that has the depth that you want. I chose a very short one, but Rita, when she was designing this, she chose a very, very big one so she could put a lot of things inside. So any size jar you want, that's totally up to you. So we're going to prepare to embroider now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hoop a piece of Floriani nylon no-show mesh. So you're just going to hoop that all by itself in the hoop. Just make sure it's nice and tight, and it's the only thing that's going to be in the hoop. Then you're going to go ahead and load the hoop on the machine and load your design into the machine, getting ready to stitch. Now, as I said during the software point, I wanted to go over again some important notes. First thing is, in the directions that we're going to be doing here, I'm going to be referring to the colors as they were assigned in the design using those Floriani colors. So that's what we're going to be doing. However, when you load them into your machine, depending on how your machine's set, they may come up as totally different color names, but it'll be in order. So they'll be in order the same way, but the names just might be different. And again, the reason that the color changes are there are to make the machine stop. So the machine's going to stop and say, hey, change the thread. And you're probably not going to change the thread. You can go ahead and leave it all the same color. It doesn't matter. If you want to change the thread color, go ahead and change the thread color. Just a quick note, if you've got a multi-needle machine, of course, it's designed to do the thread color changes for you automatically. So unless you do something to it, it's going to blindly go ahead and continue to stitch, which is what we do not want it to do. So multi-needle machines have a way to go in and tell the machine to stop when it's done sewing that color. And it's usually called reserve stop, and you want to learn how to use that. So you want to go ahead and insert those reserve stops for each one of the color changes on the machine. And again, I've said this before, but you want to use the same color thread for everything. And again, the machine's going to prompt you to change the color, just don't change it. Now, again, for a multi-needle machine, it's a special case. It's going to know about those color changes and try and switch to a different spool. So in order to keep that from happening, if you want to use the same thread color throughout, there's a magic wand function on that machine, not to be confused with the magic wand in the software, but the magic wand on your machine would allow you to reassign the color any way you want. And so what you would want to do is go ahead and reassign the same color, each color change to be the same needle, whichever one, or spool, needle, whichever one you pick. Okay? If you have a multi-needle machine, I'm sure you're familiar with that. If you're not, either ask your dealer or have a look in your manual for using the magic wand. So we're going to go ahead and start the embroidery. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose color number 1. We're going to go ahead and stitch it out. Okay, so that stitches out right on the stabilizer, and there's nothing else there. It's just going to stitch right out on the stabilizer, and you can see in the picture there, it's going to create an outline. And this is kind of showing us where we're going to put our batting down, just to make sure we cover it. And so it's going to go ahead and stitch it out. The machine's going to stop. I want you to remove the hoop from the machine, but do not unhoop the stabilizer or the design. So leave it hooped. And for all of these steps, we're going to leave it hooped. We are not going to ever remove the fabric or the stabilizer or the batting from the hoop. So the next step is we're going to cover that placement line with 3 of the 4-inch squares. So you're going to take all 3 of your 4-inch squares of batting, and you're going to put them over the placement line to make sure it's covered. And then you're going to tape it in place with the Floriani Embroidery Perfection Tape. And you can see I've just used a little piece there in each one of the corners. And the only thing is just make sure that the batting is kind of centered over that design, and also make sure that the tape is attached in such a way that you won't stitch through it. So, because that's why I put it at the edges of the design there. So I'm taping it down right to the stabilizer, and you can see the tape's on the hoop a little bit. And so that's the next step. You're going to reload it into the machine, and then you're going to choose color number 2, and you're going to stitch. And that's going to stitch a tack down line. It's going to be 2 passes of that short stitch. And once it's done stitching, you're going to remove the hoop from the machine. You're going to remove the tape, and I actually saved those 4 pieces of tape because they will re-stick multiple times. So I saved them off to the side, and we're going to reuse them again in another step. And then you're going to take your scissors, either very sharp scissors, and the scissors that come with the Floriani toolkit, Walt's toolkit, are a great little sharp pair of scissors to use. That's what I actually use to do this. Or if you like the applique scissors, go ahead and use the applique scissors to use that. And then again, the new versions of that toolkit have a really nice small applique scissors, great for this application. Go ahead and trim it as close as you can get to the thread. Okay, and you can see if you look at this here, I've left a little bit hanging out the outside of the thread. You don't have to go crazy and get right up against the thread, but get as close as you can. So we're going to trim away the excess batting there. We're going to cover the batting at this stage with our piece of fleece. Again, we're going to try and make sure that the fleece is centered over the batting in the design. And you can see there I reused the 4 pieces of embroidery perfection tape to tape the fleece down in place. Okay, so our next step is we are going to stitch our deep pink color, and that stitches the outline around the outside, and so you can see how puffy that is now. That's our outline, and you're going to stitch that out, and then you're going to choose the next color and just continue stitching, and that stitches the detail or the texture inside the flower. And you can just go ahead and stitch that second one right in line with the first one. There's no need to remove the hoop from the machine or even stop sewing, because it could all sew together at that point. When you're done, you're going to take it out of the machine. You're going to trim around the edge of that circle, and you should be left with about a 3 1/4 inch circle all the way across. So that's trimming just a little bit outside. You're going to remove the ring part of the lid and place the lid flat on top of the mason jar like you see here. You're going to then run a ring of glue around the outside of the mason jar lid. We're going to take our 3 pieces of circular cut batting, which you can see off to the side there, and we're going to place them on the top. They're going to sit inside the glue ring. Don't worry about that for now. They don't get glued down. So you're just going to stack those 4 circles into the center all together, and then you are going to place the fabric circle that you cut over the center, and you're going to add the ring over the top of that and tighten it. Now is your chance, by the way, to reposition it if you didn't get it totally centered in the center, because once the glue dries, you're not going to be able to reposition it. So go ahead and reposition it now. Leave it clamped down nice and tight with the ring. Let the glue dry, and you are done with the project once it's done. So after it's done, add pins to it, and this makes a really great gift for the novice sewer or for anybody. Throw in some sewing notions into the jar. You can do a measuring tape, scissors if your jar is big enough, buttons. And what I've put in this is our wonderful Floriani chrome needles. And if you're not using our chrome needles, you really ought to give them a try. Just a really quick aside here, those chrome needles are really wonderful. The standard silver sewing needles that you get, they are nickel plated. Nickel's okay for plating, but chrome is so much better. It'll make your needles last about 2.5 times as long. It'll make them run cooler. And the great news is it's only going to cost you 10 to 20% more than a standard nickel-plated needle, certainly a lot less than a titanium needle, and you don't have the brittle problems that titanium causes when they plate needles with titanium. So the Floriani chrome needles by Schmetz, and again we chose Schmetz to do our needles because they are the premier needle manufacturer in the world. They are really great. See your Floriani dealer and give some chrome needles, Floriani chrome needles by Schmetz, a try. They are really great. But you put some stuff in there, you get everything everybody needs in that jar. It's a really great gift, and even if you give it to yourself. So I want to thank everybody. Oh, what happened? I want to thank everybody for attending. In a few days, the video of this webinar will be available online. So go to the Floriani website under webinars, and you'll be able to see the recorded version of the video, assuming all goes well. I expect you'll use the video along with the printed instructions to recreate this project at home. And lastly, I want to remind everybody that the printed instructions, the way to get those is to open up MDQ and go to that My Floriani Today screen, click on the My Floriani, on the Project of the Month icon there, which right now should show you the same little picture that you're seeing here, and then follow the steps to download the project. And it's a PDF file. Once you get it, you can print it out, put it on your iPad, whatever. So that ends the webinar, and again, I want to thank everybody for attending, and good luck creating the project.